Speaking of self-love, what I have learned is that I really couldn't love myself until I actually knew myself. I needed to know what was really going on, what my patterns were, what traumas that I just hadn't really admitted to myself, and just really who I was. I needed to get very clear on that. So my book is here for that purpose, to learn how to become self-aware and then move on. And so I believe that after we learn how to become self-aware, it's, now is the time to start reading about self-love. Now that you know who you are, you know that you might have things about yourself that you don't love. You might have anger, and because you didn't love the part of you that could get angry, you have suppressed it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode on Your Health is Your Greatest Wealth. And I have the pleasure of introducing my very good friend, Tiffany Barton. Tiffany is the author of the book called Shed, just recently released. And Shed is the secret in unleashing vibrant health, passionate love, and ultimate freedom. With that, Tiffany, take it away. Tell us all about Tiffany and your book, Shed.
Awesome. I will. Thank you so much, Blanca. Thank you for having me here. It's amazing to be here. I'm so thrilled. Thank you so much. As you mentioned, I just now released a book. Here it is. Here's the cover. And it's been quite a journey, Blanca, quite a journey. I will say first, I think writing a book is the most incredible thing I've ever done. And I'm so happy I did it. It was an incredible journey. And now I got to document my journey and what I went through so that I may help others. And I know that's something very dear to your heart too, is helping others. And when I was very, very sick, and there were moments where I really thought I would never get better. And I wondered if I would ever make it out. And the way I got through it was saying to myself, if I get through this, I am going to help others. If I'm going through this, someone else in the world is, maybe more than one person, but even if I help one person, I'm going to get through this for them. So that is what I did. And then I wrote about it, wrote about the whole thing in Shed. So it's about a 3-year period of my life that I wrote about. And, it's kind of like I had a 3-year dark night of the soul. Like it was like a never ending dark night of the soul. And it ended up being a quantum leap for me. Because like I said, I was going to make it that. It was going to be that. There was no other way. I decided I'm going to get through this, and I'm going to help others who are going through it too. So it was significant for me.
Tiffany, I know a little bit about your journey. I know you struggled with health. I also know you from the personal development world. And I love your title because I did read that it has a lot to do with shedding patterns and also finding purpose and joy. Now, walk me through that. I know you had health issues, but what helped put you on this path to just develop yourself, grow yourself, and take all that you learned and incorporate that in your book as a way to heal others?
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. So I have loved personal development for a long time, probably 15 years. And I remember a couple of years ago, I was on my 42nd birthday. I woke up crying. And this was when I was going through my 3-year dark night of the soul. I was very sick. I just woke up bawling. And every area of my life um, was not going well. My health, my relationship. I lived with a man in LA at the time. My career, um, my finances. I had a ton of medical bills. It was like every area of my life had gone bad. And I sat there and thought to myself, how is this possible? Because I have done so much work on myself. I had coached, I had done years of work, and I love personal development. I've read every book. I really did not understand how I could be in this position when my life is in the toilet. And I had already done so much personal development work. And so that really led me on a quest to really find out, like, how is that possible? That was kind of like my inner voice talking to me, like, what happened? There was something you missed, something that didn't, I don't know. So there's some part of you that missed out. And what I realized, and not immediately, but what I ended up realizing, it was that my self-awareness was quite lacking. And I found that if I thought back to a lot of the personal development work that I'd done, people say things like, well, you need to be self aware first, and then, and there's a lot of and then. So no one's really talking about how you become self aware. And that was really, once I really wanted to take that on. Like, I've done all this personal development work. How am I here? Let's figure this out. And what I found was the missing piece was my own self-awareness. So that is what I write about a lot in the book, because that is a part of our health as well. I ended up learning that if I had been more self-aware, I would not have these health challenges. So that is what really pushed me into healing, I guess, and what helped me understand what I had not done. Um, because it's very hard if you're not self-aware. You hear a lot of great personal development work, but you don't know that it is applying to you if you can't see yourself in it. And I had never really known that I was a perfectionist. Someone asked me once, "Are you a perfectionist?" And my thought was, I don't do anything perfect. So I was like, no, I'm not, because I thought that meant I did everything perfectly. And in my mind, I didn't. But I later found out that I was a perfectionist, that I was a people pleaser, that I was seeking approval. And these things do create patterns that hold you back in your life and also in your health, which that blew my mind when I realized that for myself.
You said some things that really struck me. One of them is I noticed when you talked about your dark night of the soul that lasted 3 years, I did detect that during that period you had a lot of anger, maybe some resentment. And how did that anger and resentment and maybe repurposing it to make that pain your purpose now, how did that help you on your journey? And is it something you've overcome, or are you still dealing with some residual resentment and anger for your health issues?
Oh, that's so good, Blanca. That is really, really good. What I learned is that my whole life I had pretended that I wasn't angry. So it all kind of came to a boiling point, because when you have anger and you pretend that you don't have it, this creates a lot of resentment. And yeah, when I got sick, I was so resentful. I did not understand, which that's what you picked up on. I just didn't understand how this could be happening to me, someone who had done all the right things in their life, apparently. But I did have anger and pretended like I didn't. And when you pretend like you don't have anger, that anger doesn't have anywhere to go, and it stays in your body. And your emotions make you physically sick as well. And that can show up in a lot of different ways. That's why it's actually very hard to pinpoint what actually happened to me and what I actually had, because there are so many different possibilities. But one school of thought is that it was just a lot of repressed emotions. I was always kind of acting like everything is okay. So I decided I'm no longer doing that. Like, I will find healthy ways to express anger, to express rage. These are normal human emotions that we all feel, everyone, even like Mother Teresa. Like, it's okay to have anger. It's when we pretend like we don't that it's a problem, because then we take out that anger in maladaptive ways, or we just pretend it's not there, which affects your body greatly. So yes, I made it a mission of mine to express my feelings in a healthy way.
Tiffany, I think that's just so timely. I'm actually reading Dr. Gabor Mate's The Myth of Normal. I don't know if
Oh,
you're familiar with that book. He talks about the same thing about how expressing anger is normal. When you don't express it and suppress it, it does manifest as illness in the body as well. So I think your book will touch so many people, and it's definitely something many of us, I think, since youth, were taught to suppress our anger, that it's
yeah.
not good. And I think now the mindset is shifting that, anger is not necessarily a bad emotion. It's what you do with that anger that really
Mm,
matters. So I love that there's this reframing. And I also wanted to ask you another thing that you talked about. You talked about this concept of perfection, and that when someone asked you if you were perfect and you told yourself, no, I'm not, do you think there was some sense of you that you were, because you didn't see yourself as perfect, you thought of yourself less than or maybe not worthy of? And if so, how have you overcome that?
yeah, there were definitely, it was a lot of self-worth problems for sure that again, I just was not aware of. There's no blood test to tell you if you feel worthy or not. There's no way to know until you know. And I do think that, yeah, when I was asked that, to me, it just felt like yeah, I'm not even worthy of that title of perfectionist. Like everything I do is wrong. So no, like you can't even call me that. Um, what I then learned, and I write about this in the book, is that a better way to try to kind of diagnose if you're a perfectionist or not is to look at what you stop yourself from doing. Not so much how you do things and if you do things perfectly, but if you can't do something perfectly, does that stop you completely from doing it?
Mm.
And if someone had asked me that, I would have been like, oh, yeah, definitely. I just don't do it. And I had been like that since I was a kid. So that I think is a way to diagnose it. And how I overcame that, it's lifelong. I'll be honest, that is something lifelong for me. Um, but I have really, thankfully, I had a very physical problem, and I really had to get over it. And one way I did, and I started to notice that I was getting over that. And it's a good idea, if you identify with perfectionism, begin to celebrate everything you try. Begin to celebrate your bravery, every single thing you try, even if it doesn't go that well or you don't get, the results that you wanted. Really start celebrating yourself. When I was very, very sick, I couldn't move. I was in a lot of pain, and I had a coach, which was by far the best thing that helped me become well. It was coaching, 100%. Um, he really helped me and encouraged me to do things and to just do them, even if I couldn't do them perfectly. So I write about a story in the book where my favorite workout was Pure Barre. I still love to do Pure Barre. And I was in a lot of pain, and I really couldn't work out or get much movement at all. I couldn't even stand for longer than 5 minutes. So I had to kind of work up to going to Pure Barre, but he encouraged me to visualize myself being able to do it. And so once you visualize yourself, and when you visualize yourself, you can visualize it perfectly, however you want. And so that kind of made it okay to begin. So I started just visualizing myself going. Then I went to a Pilates class, a little easier than Pure Barre. And I had the courage to tell the instructor that I can't do it perfectly. And is that okay? And I might need some adjustments. And this was like, not me, not me at all. So then I celebrated that with my coach. Like I told the teacher that I'm a little sick. She said it was okay. She said she'd help me, and I wasn't that embarrassed, these baby steps. Um, and then I finally was able to go to Pure Barre, and I did the class about half. I could do about half of it. And by the time I actually did it, I was like, yes, like that was more than I even thought. And it felt so good. And so those were my beginning moments of overcoming my perfectionism. And I saw how much it improved my health and my strength just by trying and keeping moving. A lot of times when our physical body hurts, we think it's best to just be completely still, like don't move. And that's actually not what we should do unless you have like a broken foot or something. But being in motion, getting stronger, all of that, healing my perfectionism was is the reason I was able to get better.
Tiffany, so much to pick up on what you said. So earlier you mentioned that you were a people pleaser and you were constantly seeking approval. So many of us do fall into that category, that to feel we belong or to feel that we're being accepted, we so seek that external validation that a lot of times it does rob us from our own authenticity, and what we know we truly align with, just again to get that external approval and feel like we're part of something. What was one pivotal moment for you when you realized, I am spending so much time and energy trying to be such a people pleaser, and at the end of the day, I'm not happy and it's affecting my health? Was there a pivotal moment where you just said no more?
Gosh, I think what really drove this home for me was that I quit drinking. So I quit drinking alcohol for my health. I decided to do like a 30-day cleanse, and I thought I'll just quit drinking for 30 days and it'll be like a cleanse and I'll feel so much better. And I didn't. I didn't feel better at all. And the lifestyle I was in at that time was a big party lifestyle. I lived with a man who, looking back, that's what we mostly had in common. And all of our friends, and that's just what we did, was drink all the time and party all the time. So it was a huge test because I started to realize anyway, that I started to look back and realize there were so many times in my life where I didn't want to drink, but I would, just because like everyone else was, and it was kind of a fitting in thing. And I started to think about all the other times that I had done that, when there was really something out of alignment, but I was like, oh well, like you're kind of in or out. Like, what am I going to do? Leave? Like, I'll just, be a part of whatever it was. So the decision for me, for my health, putting myself first to not drink, was so big and changed my life so much. And now it changed my life in such a positive way. It's the best thing I have ever done in my life. But at the time, it was extremely hard. And what that did was prove to myself how worthy I am, how much I do care about myself, how much I do love myself, that I will alienate myself from my boyfriend to his friends. Like, we basically ended up, it just didn't work out for many reasons. And I'm positive it's because I don't party anymore. And that's good. So that is kind of what comes to mind as like a real pivotal moment where I really had to choose my own alignment. And the thing is that when we choose our own alignment, it, like, we imagine it's going to be met with like, yay, like balloons, butterflies. And it just really depends on how out of alignment you've been. And for me, I had been very out of alignment. So it was more like, well, okay, like we still love you. Like we'll still, and I was like, no, that's not it. Like, I love me. I love me. And I'm making this choice for me and my health because I'm worthy.
That is so great. And I think now there is more awareness about self care, about self love. There's pushback and resistance to self care is selfish, because no, they're completely different things. And I think in this day and age, we just need more people to model self-care, to show people what it looks like for improved health, for improved relationships. Sometimes it does mean shedding relationships that are not beneficial for you. And that is a concept that I too like to promote through this platform of Your Health is Your Greatest Wealth. Just the entire concept of self-care, because if you cannot be there for yourself, you really can't be there for others. It really does start with you. I commend you for having that. And you also mentioned alignment and purpose and self-awareness. And is that all reflected in your book, Shed?
Yeah, it is. So in Shed, I define self-awareness by terms of like a popular psychologist, but then I kind of go into my own definition of self-awareness as I have learned it and a more modern definition. And, speaking of self-love, what I have learned is that I really couldn't love myself until I actually knew myself. I needed to know what was really going on, what my patterns were, what traumas that I just hadn't really admitted to myself, and just really who I was. I needed to get very clear on that. So my book is here for that purpose. So you can pick my book up to learn how to become self-aware and then move on. And so I believe that after we learn how to become self-aware, it's, now is the time to start reading about self-love. Now that you know who you are, you know that you might have things about yourself that you don't love. You might have anger, and because you didn't love the part of you that could get angry, you have suppressed it. So then you can really focus on self-love. And I'm also a big believer in self-care. It's crucial. And you were speaking about bitterness earlier. There's no more bitter person than the person who hasn't cared for themselves. And when you're bitter, like that shows, I feel, when people are bitter and they're like over giving, their cup is empty. These are the people who need so much honoring of themselves because they're running around. And do you ever feel like, I feel like I see people who used to be me and I'm like, that poor girl, I just want to like hug her and tell her to go take care of herself.
Now that you bring it up, I think a lot of it really does relate to upbringing, at least mine, and I know my programming, where how I was raised, the archetype to be admired was the martyr. And
Oh
now
yeah.
it's like, well, nobody needs a martyr. You're miserable, and it's not like if you're sacrificing yourself to make others think, oh, you're doing it for them, it's really adding to your life or to theirs. If anything, what comes out, and I saw this growing up in my own childhood, that the person that was living the life of a martyr, it really showcased through resentment.
Yeah.
And that comes out in spades. So I think if you can shed all, again, the word shed all of those archetypes and those stories that no longer serve us. These are different times. I think people are questioning the values that were taught from generations before to take on and adapt beliefs and values that really do speak to us truthfully and align. And I know for me, I don't want to be the martyr for anyone. I don't want anyone to be a martyr for me. I see this world where we are all living to our highest and best potential. And because we are, then we have more to give each other. I mean, that's my ideal world. So,
Yes. Oh my gosh,
so
girl, preach that. Like that's 100% right. I love that. And we do take on, and you don't even know that you're doing it. It's however you were raised. We're just sponges when we're little. We're just sponges. And if your mom wasn't taking care of herself, then you observed that as the behavior of a woman. Like this is what we do. And so now it's wonderful because that has changed. And I've seen my friends who have kids, I've seen them model a new way. And I do think that this world is changing and growing. And it's beautiful that kids don't have to grow up, seeing that as a role model, resentment as kind of the way to be, because I know for generations in my family, that is how how it's been. That's the norm. So, amen, sister. You're right
Thank
on.
you.
Right
Yeah.
on.
So, Tiffany, can you share a couple of nuggets from your book? And again, everybody, please pick up Shed. Tiffany, where can they get your book from?
It's on Amazon. So if you put in shed, this is what it looks like. If you put in shed, though, you get like actual sheds that go in your backyard. So you have to
So,
put in.
this is the secret to unleashing vibrant health, passionate love, and ultimate freedom. And so, Tiffany, what couple of nuggets can you share with the audience and entice them to go get the book?
Yes, I'd love to. So, one thing I talk about is health advocacy. So, in the book, I have a whole section on how to advocate for yourself. And it does take self awareness. So, first, I teach you how to become a little more self aware. But then I go through a whole framework on how to advocate for yourself. Unfortunately, doctors these days, it's a bit of a crazy business model right now out there. And I do think that that's changing too. But when someone has 15 minutes with you, there are chances of being medically gaslit, which happened to me a lot. There are chances of being misdiagnosed. There are chances of your nervous system completely breaking down because for me in LA, I was just going from doctor's appointment to doctor's appointment. That is all I did. And they would just refer me for more tests, more imaging, this doctor, that doctor, and no one knew what the heck was wrong with me. So your nervous system starts to break down as well. So that is a great part of the book also. And what I could leave us on is, nervous system regulation is really a huge part of our health journey as well. So, and it all goes hand in hand when we suppress emotions, your nervous system really feels the effects of that because it's your nervous system that does that, that pretends everything's okay when it's not. So I can give the listeners a little practice now. That would be great because this is always a fun thing to do. I do this all the time. So, and it's very, very simple. So take any hand and put your hand on your heart and then put your other hand on your belly. And it doesn't matter which one, just whatever feels the most natural. And just kind of drop in, take a deep breath, let it out, and close your eyes. And then we're just going to take a deep breath in for 4 and then hold it. So breathe in for 1, 2, 3, 4. Now hold for 1, 2, 3, 4. And exhale 1, 2, 3, 4. So one more time. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 1, 2, 3, 4. Now exhale 1, 2, 3, 4. You can do that for as long as you want. And you can also just putting your hand on your heart. And you were there when Kimberly Snyder, the author that Brendon Burchard had on during Ultra last time, she mentioned that there is research that shows just bringing attention to your heart calms your nervous system. So I like to put my hand on my heart, but there are times when I've really needed some regulation and I was in a boardroom or somewhere where it would be weird to do that. And so I really loved that from Kim Snyder, just bringing your attention to your heart, bringing your attention within, being mindful. It's so calming. So I love that little practice that anyone can do.
And I think with the addition of the breath work, it's something that's also come to the forefront that I've been trying to practice a lot, just being very conscientious of breathing. And as silly as it may sound to some people in the audience, it's all of us breathe. You don't have to think about it, it's automatic. I truly do know that when I just take in deep breaths, conscientious breaths, it just calms me.
Yeah, it really does. Isn't it incredible? It's
Yeah.
like the most amazing tool. Our body is a free tool, free. And we can use it to become more aware. And in my book, I tell you how you use your body to become more self-aware. Your body is telling you everything. Your body is noticing everything. And your body notices it before your brain does. And that's why you have spontaneous reactions, like you sense a threat and you find yourself running before you even really know what's going on. Your body is this finely tuned instrument, and it's so unbelievable. So, really listening, becoming attuned, and then learning how to listen to your body is an amazing way to become self aware and healthy.
Oh, thank you so much, Tiffany Barton. And with that, thank you, audience, for joining us on another episode of Your Health is Your Greatest Wealth. If you haven't liked and subscribed yet, do it now and share this video with others. Thank you. The link is below, as well as the information for the book Shed that Tiffany Barton just released. Thank you all.